Hi, I'm Fritz, and I am a hypnotist. And here is the reason why I stopped giving my clients hypnosis recording before their sessions, after their sessions, and recordings in general. And so there was a point in my hypnosis career where, I absolutely loved doing the recordings. Don't get me wrong, the recordings were very empowering. I do found some joy into making them and customizing them based on whatever my client wanted, whatever they desired, based on their intake form, right? Because that's what we do when we make recordings for them. We personalize it for them so that they hear back their own words in the recording. And so at one point, it worked very well for me. I actually enjoyed it. Some of my clients tended actually enjoyed it as well. And it was one of these things where I got to a point in my business where I was realizing how much work it actually was for me as a coach and hypnotist, right? And I was like, okay, so I read their intake form. I try to formulate this perfect script for them because, perfectionism problems. And, I would write up the script. I would, during their session, I would read the script during, which is much more powerful. And then I would edit the recordings and add solfeggio type music, binaural beats into it, send it to them, and upload it and do all these things. It was a lot of work. For one client, it would, I think I calculated just going through the intake form, writing down the script. Sometimes I would practice because, and actually, the editing after that as well would take like 2 hours at least. For some clients, it would even take me 3 hours plus the 2 hour, 2.5 session that they had. So I was spending like 5 hours to 6 hours with one client. And I realized that that shit ain't sustainable. That's not sustainable for a one-to-one business. So I kind of had to make a choice, right? I was like, sure, I could have more clients. And I was starting to calculate in terms of time how much capacity I would have. And of course, like it wasn't much because there's only so much time in the day, right? And I started to think, obviously, in an entrepreneurial big picture type way, where I was like, well, I'm limiting myself with the amount of clients I can have because it's taking me too long to prep. And then, um, and then I could make a decision whether to just do group programs, right? But at that point, I really enjoyed my one-to-one clients and I really liked working with clients one-to-one. So that wasn't an option yet. It probably would have been in the future until I found advanced conversational hypnosis, which doesn't need any of that stuff, any prep or any post-session things to do for your clients. So anyway, I was thinking of that and I was like, is this really worth it? And I started questioning, and not in a bad, malicious way. I was kind of just like really thinking about the different options as to how I could just make it better for me, right? Make it easier for me because, time is valuable, right? And so when I started to think and I started to go, okay, so I'm giving my clients sessions. And to be quite honest, some of my clients who actually paid me, they paid me money for the sessions, okay? And they wouldn't listen to it, right? They wouldn't listen to the recording. And, I had a very small percentage of clients who listened to the recording every day, but I would say one out of like 8 to 10 clients would be listening to the recordings every day, like I recommended. And you know, the rest of the 6 to 8 clients are that I gave the recordings to would only listen to it whenever they felt like it. And I was like, okay, it's not really a testament against me. This is not like I really had to think. So if my clients aren't listening to the recording, what's the point, right? Is it even necessary? And of course, I educated them in saying, it's really going to help rewire your mind to listen to this recording. Um, but they would have resistance. And I was like, I looked at that resistance and I was like, well, what is that resistance about? And then once I found conversational hypnosis, it all clicked for me. And that's when I stopped doing the recordings because my mentor really drilled it in for us, where, he was like, the recordings are very conscious, right? There are conscious interpretation and they're based on the symptom level, which is true. A client who comes to you wanting to get out there and be more visible in their business and is afraid of being seen, that recording is going to be all about you feel confident in your ability to show up online. But truth of the matter is that's not the problem, right? The actual problem is much deeper. So here we are trying to make a recordings from a symptom level up here, but the real issue is all the way down here. So that really doesn't align anymore. That doesn't match anymore. And our clients are listening to a recording which is only working at a level here when we want them to be rewiring down here. So that didn't make sense to do the recording, right? And it really showed me the limits of it. And second of all, one of the reasons also was that as humans, we don't like being told what to do, right? Even if we hired someone and paid money and invested in ourselves to have a transformation, at the end of the day we like listening to ourselves more than anyone else. And so for if we listen to someone else's recording, then there's going to be resistance because it's not our voice, even though that person's voice is going to be soothing and calming and is going to get you into this deep relaxed state, letting you go deeper. It doesn't really matter if it's not our own voice. We're more likely to be compliant with regards to listening to our own voice. And to be quite honest, when I did receive hypnosis sessions on myself, regular hypnosis sessions, and I would be given a recording, I also wouldn't be 100% compliant with it, right? And I was not, I had colleagues who are also hypnotists and did the recordings thing, and they also didn't like listening to other people's recordings. So really my whole question was like, well, what's the fucking point, right? What's the fucking point of having the recordings if my clients aren't listening to it and they're admitting that they're not listening to it? Why am I working so hard on it if they're not going to use it? And also for them, if they don't feel that it's helping them, why am I giving them this extra work? I'm sure my clients had other things to do as well. So if I could save them the 20 minutes per day of not listening to it and just allowing the transformations to happen within the actual sessions themselves, then wouldn't it be more beneficial for me and my clients? And that's exactly what happened. And that was really the big deal breaker. Once I learned conversational hypnosis, advanced conversational hypnosis, that's when I stopped listening to recordings and making recordings for my clients because it wasn't really needed anymore. And my results were better. My results were better because all of the issues that my clients came to me with were resolved within that session because of the principles that we use in ACH. So there's no need for a recording because the actual problem is solved within the session, within that 90-minute session. The problem is solved, and my sessions are much shorter, so it's saving me more time. I don't have to prep. Instead of me taking, I mentioned in this video, 5 hours, 5 to 6 hours for one client, it will only take me 90 minutes for a client. My sessions are booked for 90 minutes. Sometimes I have 45-minute sessions and that's it. There's no prep before that 45 session. There's no recording after that 45 sessions. I'm done. I get that time back. And even if I go all the way to 90 minutes or sometimes 2 hours for some clients, it didn't freaking matter because we get so much done in that 90 minutes or even sometimes close to 2 hours that their whole life changed. They change in that identity level without having this artificial recording that's just on top, right? And so that's exactly why I stopped using the recordings. One, because, you know, it took too much time and my clients really didn't listen to it. There was no real proof that it was rewiring them or helping them in a way. If anything, it inconvenienced them, which at the end of the day inconvenienced me because it's a lot of work for nothing. And number three, I figured out a way to be able to create the transformations right then and there within the sessions so that they don't need any extra homework, such as listening to a recording. And not only do I get my time back, my clients also get their time back.